So you say that you are an effeminate man, right?
No, 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 no. I said you would describe me as an effeminate man. I
How
would say I'm now a soft man.
how
Soft. I'm
oh you
softer.
but that's effeminate
No, in your words, why does it have to be about being male or female?
because an
Effeminate
effem
is female. I'm not female in any way. I have a penis. I'm a man.
but
I'm
having a
just a
penis
softer version.
don't make you a man and make you a male. They're trying to make you accept an abnormal lifestyle as a norm, so that's why they use the word partner. And so heterosexual people should not use that word because you're promoting so-called homosexual couples.
Okay, well,
Just a little
I'm
FYI.
not against homosexuality, so you and I will have to disagree on that.
I'm
And
not
to be honest, if we're going to
surprised.
start getting into the pros and cons of homosexuality, I'll have
I'm
to
not.
end this conversation because,
I'm not
frankly,
surprised you're not,
anybody who's homophobic does not deserve my time.
Chris. Chris, I'm not surprised that you're not against it. You're a soft man. But let me ask. Um,
Well, no, don't be offensive towards me now. Don't be
wait,
offensive towards me. I've given you an hour of my time here.
no. I'm
Don't be
not being.
offensive towards me and
No,
say you're not surprised that I'm pro homosexuality because I'm a soft man.
when
Because
you
those
say
two
you're
things.
soft,
Wow, wow, wow. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. It's unfortunate that this is the kind of men that we have. This is totally emasculated. I won't blame them. I won't blame men so much because everything in society, laws and everything favor the woman. So sometimes it may make the man, start thinking that it's better off to be like a woman or start thinking like a woman or start being soft or being effeminate. This has to change. Thank God for Jesse. Jesse exposed and triggered and trolled this guy and totally destroyed him. I want you to enjoy this video. I'll see you at the other side. Let's dive in.
I am Skyping this morning with Chris Hemmons. And Chris is a producer at LBC Radio. LBC is short for Leading Britain's Conversation. He is a former sales rep at Coca-Cola and currently writing a book, Be a Man, about the perils of masculinity. He wrote a very interesting article in the International Business Time, White Ribbon Day. Violence in a male is a male problem. Violence is a male problem. Let's start teaching boys is never the answer. He says from the moment they are born, we brainwash our sons that strength is important and crying is weak. Chris, good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Jesse. How are you?
All is well. Um, do you have children?
No, I don't.
You don't have children. And when you were born, did your parents brainwash you that crying is weak?
I remember from almost the moment that I could that my dad always seemed to look down on me a little when I showed that moment of weakness and got upset. And I always remember questioning why. Why wasn't I allowed to cry when girls were allowed to cry? And it's something that stuck with me for a long time. And as part of my research now, I'm starting to realize that the way that we teach men in that way, that crying is a weakness and that men shouldn't cry, is very damaging in so many ways, so many ways.
That's interesting. How were you damaged as a boy growing up when you were not allowed to cry? You were damaged in what way?
Damaged. I mean, I'm a fairly rounded person. I would say that I was damaged in a way that I suppressed my emotions. And I think a lot of men do that. A lot of men suppress their emotions. We don't allow ourselves to truly feel the world that's going on around us. We're trained to be the Hercules. We're trained to be strong and tough. And actually, the world doesn't need us to always be strong and tough. And actually, our own mental capacities don't need us to be strong and tough. And I don't know if you know this. I don't know what the statistics are in the US, but in Britain, the biggest killer of men under 45 is suicide. Because men aren't trained to talk about their feelings and their emotions. You know, we're not allowed to show that we might be hurting or sad. And I think that's where it stems from, that very early age. I genuinely believe that.
When you say that your father will look down on you if you cried,
Yeah.
Did he say something or just look at you in a weird way or something?
Yeah, both, both. It would depend on the situation. I specifically remember going to the swimming baths once and being moved into something that was new and scary for me. And as a 9-year-old, I didn't know how to react, so I cried. And I remember my dad looking at me like I'd broken some cardinal sin, and all I was doing was showing some emotion, and I repressed it for a long time. In fact, up until even as he lay dying 3 years ago, I started to cry, and even then, knowing he was going to die, he still told me to stop crying. It was inbuilt into him, and the kind of post-war generation where the stiff upper lip. And I'm trying to explain to my generation and future generations that that's not healthy. It's just not.
How do you know that showing emotions is the solution to suicide?
Showing emotions, well, because if you look at the statistics, again, I can only speak from a British perspective, but if you look at the statistics, in the UK, 3 times as many men kill themselves as women, and yet there are 3 times as many women as men in talking therapy within our health service. So there is a direct correlation between people who talk about their problems and people who are killing themselves.
But
People
so,
who talk about their problems aren't killing themselves in anywhere near the same amount.
but you don't know for sure that it's due to suicide, is due to not being able to express emotions, because most women express their emotions and they're committed suicide, and
But
they
they're
are.
not committing suicide at anywhere near the rate that men are. That's
I
the
know,
point.
but
That's the point.
they're still committed them, and they're, even though they express their emotions, they take out their aggressions on their children, on their husbands, on their boyfriends, on
Well,
the
they
folks
do, but
around
if we're
them.
going to talk about aggressions, Jesse, then we have to look at the fact that, again, I can only talk in Britain, but 90% of violent crime that's carried out in Britain is carried out by men, and that is again because we don't train men. And I'm not talking about. Oddly enough, I was listening earlier, and you were talking about an advert with a nurse on, and you were talking about effeminate, soft men, and I used to be a hard, tough guy, and I was violent. And then I became what you would describe as effeminate and soft, and now I'm not violent. And I talk about my feelings with people and my emotions. And actually, yes, there is a balance to be struck, but I'm not violent anymore.
What caused you to become
I've learned to
violent?
talk through my emotions when I have them. And that is the healthiest way to do them, because people who get confused about how they feel, men in particular, lash out through violence, whether it be at themselves via suicide or directly on somebody else, be it domestic violence, be it child abuse, be it some other way. And that is why I'm trying to convince men to talk about their feelings, because I think it's very important.
When you were a violent male, did you beat women?
No, never. No.
And why not?
I guess I was brought up with at least a modicum of respect in me. I would only ever actually be violent if violence was put onto me by somebody else. I would never go and actively pursue it. I wouldn't describe myself as a violent person, but I engaged in violence. The difference being that, as I say, I would only really be violent if a violent situation was put upon me. So if somebody else would kind of front up to me, then I wouldn't back down or talk out of it, which is what I do now.
You are an emotional man now, right?
Yes, correct.
And as an emotional man, do you feel more like a woman or like a man?
I don't feel like any less of a man, if that's what you're asking. I don't feel like what I'm trying to do with my book is say that we need to redefine what the man is, because the man is not the caveman anymore. We don't have to be out there hunting for meat. We need to be part of a cohesive world where we all work together and not try and better each other all the time.
So do you feel like a woman or a man being
No, I don't.
emotional?
I feel like a man. I am a man. I don't feel like a woman.
do you feel like a woman?
No, not at all.
What does a woman feel like?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask a woman what it feels like to be a woman.
What does a man what is the feeling of a man? What does a man feel like?
Well, I can only say from my experience what it feels like to be my version of a man. And I'm hoping that my version of a man is a kind of modern version where we don't resort to violence as an answer. We don't resort to expecting our young boys to grow up as muscular and strong. If they do, that's fine. But There are other, I was an athlete. I was a very good athlete. And that was how I defined myself. But there is so much more to somebody than their athletic and physical capabilities. And that's what men don't do enough of. We don't encourage each other to be academic. We don't encourage each other to, I went and spoke to a group of 12-year-old schoolboys very recently and asked them how many of them have ever asked each other how they feel, like genuinely how they feel about the world. And not a single one. And most of them said they couldn't speak to their own fathers if they were feeling sad. And that, for me, is really unfortunate.
Do you consider yourself to be a masculine man now?
No.
You
no. I used to pursue masculinity, and I realised that the pursuit of traditional masculinity, as far as I see it, is not beneficial.
Are you a feminine man now?
You know what? I as I said, I was listening earlier to you talk about effeminate men, and we're talking here about violence. And you said that we shouldn't try and promote young boys to be effeminate, but you also used the word soft. And if we're talking about violence, who is more likely to be violent, a hard man or a soft man? And I think the answer is fairly obvious, that soft men, whether they're effeminate, which is the word that you use, I would never use that word, soft men, as I now consider myself to be, are not violent men. And if more men can be soft, I can only see that as a positive.
Men are less likely to report domestic violence or violence
Also
by
true.
their women
Also true.
toward them. So we don't really know the true numbers of men who have been attacked by women.
Okay.
But you're right in this as though it's true.
If you extrapolate general violence, 90% of violent crimes in the UK are committed by men. So men are therefore far more likely to be a violent person than a woman.
How do men...
It's impossible to argue with that. Men have violence in. If you look, I mean, Google it. Google war crimes. Google all the war crimes that have ever happened. They've all happened in the hands of men. It's never been women. Women are not as violent as men. They're just not.
How do men become violent?
How do they become violent? That's a great question. So you have to. Okay, so if you picture the front cover of my book, it is a small boy with a teddy bear in his hand and a shadow on the wall of a big, snarling, angry man. And what we do is we create these young boys. We create these cute young boys. And, find me a violent 4-year-old. You'd be very difficult to find one. Find me a violent 14-year-old, it would be easier. Find me a violent 24-year-old, it would be very easy. And what we do is we don't teach young men the capacity to express themselves properly.
It froze.
Surface. So we have to teach young boys that they can talk about their anger, and it's okay to discuss it, and it's better to discuss it than to act on it, because if you keep bottling things up, that's when anger will explode.
Let me ask this, Chris, because I know that we don't have a lot of more time left with you.
That's okay. That's okay. You have some more time.
I'm sorry?
You have some more time. It's okay. I'm enjoying this.
Oh, good. So you say that you are an effeminate man, right?
No. I said you would describe me as an effeminate man. I would say I'm now a soft man. Soft. I'm softer.
But that's effeminate.
No, in your words, why does it have to be about being male or female?
Because
effeminate is female. I'm not female in any way. I have a penis. I'm a man. I'm just a softer version.
Having a penis don't make you a man, it makes you a male.
Okay.
Because gay men have penises, drag queens have penises.
But they're still men. They're still men.
They're males.
They're soft men.
They're males, but not men.
No, they are men. You're judging them based on the way that they act, and actually they are a different type of man. There are different types of men. There is not one homogeneous type of man.
They're girly men, right?
But you're using girly as a negative, as if being feminine is a negative thing.
It is for a man.
Why is it? Why is it? How do you explain thousands and thousands of years of male violence on male violence? So the Norman conquest, the Viking conquests. How do you explain Pol Pot killing thousands of people in his country? How do you explain the British going over to America and massacring all of the natives? That is male violence. Those weren't women doing that. So if you just say that violence is not innate in a man, is wrong. violence is a part of the traditional male complex, and I'm trying to get rid of it. I'm trying to teach boys that we can get rid of it by talking about it, not by acting on it, and not by blaming our mothers of all people. Like my mother she was the greatest person in the world. She still is. I don't blame her for punching someone in the face a few years ago. It's not her fault.
Why do you think your father was afraid to deal with your mother?
He wasn't.
He didn't deal with her.
My father wasn't. No, you can't say negative things about my father.
If he had
all I've
allowed,
told you about him is that he didn't let me cry. My father and my mother were best friends.
Did your mother let you cry? Did your mother encourage you to cry?
She didn't encourage me, but she didn't discourage me. There's a difference.
She let you cry.
She let me cry, yeah.
But a real man would not have allowed his wife to let his son
Well, see, that's
cry.
where your and I opinions differ, because in my opinion, a real man does not control his wife. A real man allows his wife to be her own person and to live her own life. That's where you and I clearly differ, Jesse, because in my world and in my version of a man, men do not control women.
You're in a effeminate world. You're effeminate.
I'm not in an effeminate world at all. I'm in a modern world.
Is strength important, Chris?
Physical strength, no. Physical strength is not important unless you're a weightlifter or you're involved in a job that, you know, men are physically stronger than women. So, of course, men are physically stronger. But I'm talking about introducing boys to a new idea of strength. Strength is the ability to say, no, I'm not going to be violent. Strength is the ability to walk away from situations. Strength is the ability to see something that is wrong and call it out.
What should men do when they are being, boys and men do when they are being physically attacked by women? And it's happening all the time now.
You seem to be fascinated by this idea that men are being physically attacked by women.
They are. Why don't you want to deal with that? Why don't you want to deal with that?
Because I can't talk from experience there. I've never been attacked by a woman in my life. I've never experienced it.
Ask the men around you.
No, I don't know a man that has been physically assaulted by a woman. You are fascinated by this concept that women are attacking men regularly and that men are at the behest of these violent women. But you're skirting the whole point that I came on here was to talk about male violence.
But there's no such
men
thing
are
as
more
male
violent
violence.
than women, and when men are violent, the violence they inflict is far more damaging because they're physically strong. And we have to stop men from being violent, and that's what I want to do. I want to lead men away from the threat of violence from other men, and lead men away from the idea that violence is a solution to anything. I'm not talking about female violence, because I don't know anything about it, and the statistics, which are all I can go from,
and that's what we need to gather. We need to start encouraging men to report when they are attacked by women. So,
I'm with you on that. Yeah. I'm with you on that 100%. If a man's getting attacked by a woman, we have to break that taboo.
Yeah.
We have to break the taboo of men talking up about it. I'm 100% with you on that, Jesse. Men don't speak up about it because of masculinity. This is the point. Men don't speak up about being violently attacked by women because they're embarrassed about it. Because they don't think they'll be believed by the policemen who are authority figures, and they're embarrassed to admit in quotes that they are being assaulted. So yes, I'm with you. I can join you on that campaign. Men need to speak up more, but we cannot muddle this debate and say that women are more violent than men, because I'm sorry, that's just not true.
They are, and it starts in the home first when they're children. In America, violence exploded after the 60s. With the rise of single mothers. Does that say anything to you?
Yeah, it says that a single mother means that there's no father around. A single mother means that there is no present father. There is no male role model. There is no father figure.
Right. Does it say to you that the reason that it exploded was because these single mothers are taken out, or were taken out back then and still are doing it, their aggression on their boys?
No, I disagree with that.
Then how do boys become angry? They're not born that way.
A single mother is the consequence of a fatherless home, is an absent father. And therefore, a man doesn't have a role model, doesn't have a positive role model to teach him the things that I will teach one day my son or daughter. Because an absent father is not there. Therefore, and as we've already said, boys do not see men for the most of their early life, because men are either absent or they're at work and they're not in schools teaching kids. There are women everywhere, and we can't blame women for male violence. We can blame men for not being there.
If men are not around, children are not naturally violent. They're not born that way. So if men are not around and they are being raised by single mothers, where's this anger coming from? It's coming from the mothers.
No, it's not. It's coming from peer groups. It's coming from older boys who haven't been taught any better.
No.
And it's about the only way that they can prove their dominance is through violence.
No, you're
it's
wrong.
Why gang culture, you have a gang culture there with, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but guns, bitches and bling. If you think about that, it's about power, strength and money and women and dominance of women, all those things. And gang culture comes from a lack of male role models. A lack of male role models is so damaging to a young boy.
Right. It's damaging in that when a father's in the home, he, first of all, by example, gives the boys an example of how to live and how to deal with aggression and stuff like that.
Agree with you there.
But if the father is not there, there's no one to teach that by example. And so the only example that the kids have, boys and girls, it's the anger of their mothers. And so they become
where's this anger of their mothers? Why are you blaming motherhood? I don't understand where this comes from.
I'm not blaming motherhood.
It makes no sense to me. I don't know violent women. I know violent men.
You do know violent women.
I don't. I'm swearing to you, I do not know violent women.
Was your mother always patient with you?
Yeah, of course.
She was always patient.
Yes, always.
Your mother
she had three boys to bring up, and she was the most patient person I'd ever met. So was my father.
Was your mother perfect?
Never laid a finger on any of us,
Chris,
never once.
Chris, you're not being honest, because if your father and mother were such as you were saying, you would be pushing emotions for men. You would be showing men how to overcome emotions.
Well, that's what I'm doing now. But the point that I'm making is that you don't spend all of your childhood with your family. You spend them in school. You spend them at football clubs, in my respect, rugby clubs. And you meet different men. And when men congregate in groups, that's where dominance is key. Men have to be dominant over other men. And the base level that men who can't talk about other things assert their dominance is through physical violence, or at least through physicality generally. And violence is one manifestation of physicality.
Have you noticed that soft men are victims of violence by women?
Do I what? Sorry.
Have you noticed that soft men are victims of violence by women because women hate soft men?
No, I haven't noticed that.
It's true.
Well, you can't just say it's true and that makes it true. Where there's no statistics about soft men. There's no parameters for a soft man.
Do you think that women like soft men?
Well, my partner does. She seems to like me. So I don't see what your problem. I don't see what the problem is.
Are you married to? Are you with a man?
No, I'm with a girl.
Well, why did you say partner? It's your girlfriend.
Yeah, she's my girlfriend. Yeah,
well, when you say
we call each other. She's my partner. Because she's not my wife. I'm not 14 years old. She's not my girlfriend.
Hold on, Chris. Back in a moment. Oh, the reason I asked, I've said the thing about your girlfriend.
My partner.
You say you had a partner. That's a homosexual term.
No, it's not.
Men and women use. They say
it's also a term. It's also a term in a law firm. So they're all people who run law firms. Are they homosexual? If they're a partner in a law firm.
Right, but if you're in business, you say my business partner.
Right,
but when you're in a relationship with a woman, until you get married, it's your girlfriend or your fiance.
You say that I can call my relationship with my partner whatever I like to call it.
No, but
just because I don't call her my girlfriend, I feel like that is something that a 15-year-old calls their girlfriend and boyfriend.
I know, but
I choose to call her my partner.
And it's fiance, my fiance, or my.
I'm not engaged.
My
if
wife.
We got engaged,
I'm just saying there's
my fiance.
My point is there's a process. But when you say my partner, it implies that you're a homosexual and you're with another man.
Well, that's your prejudice.
No.
That's your prejudice.
How's that my prejudice?
Yes, it is. That's your prejudice. That's your prejudice towards the word partner. Just because
No,
homosexuals use the word partner to describe their partner doesn't mean that heterosexuals can't describe their
they're
relationships as
trying to
partnerships
make
either, because
you
it's a partnership.
they're trying to make you accept an abnormal lifestyle as a norm. So that's why they use the word partner. And so heterosexual people should not use that word because you're promoting so-called homosexual couples.
Okay, well,
Just a little
I'm
FYI.
not against homosexuality, so you and I will have to disagree on that.
I'm
And
not
to be honest, if we're going to
surprised.
start getting into the pros and cons of homosexuality, I'll have
I'm
to
not
end this conversation because,
I'm not
frankly,
surprised you're not.
anybody who's homophobic does not deserve my time.
Chris, I'm not surprised that you're not against it. You're a soft man. But let me ask, um,
Well, no, don't be offensive towards me now. Don't
what,
be offensive towards me. I've given you an hour of my time here.
no, I'm
Don't be
not being.
offensive towards me and
No,
say you're not surprised that I'm pro homosexuality because I'm a soft man.
when
Because
you
those
say
two
you're
things,
soft, my final question is: you have a girlfriend, and
yes, a partner, yes,
so you are an emotional male, and
yes,
I'm thinking that she is an emotional female, right?
yes.
And so, where is the strength in that? Where is the
So
logic in that?
you're suggesting that I'm not strong because I'm
Right.
emotional.
You're
I'm
not.
suggesting to you that my strength lies in my emotions.
No.
I have emotional resilience. You disagree. I see you shaking your
No.
head. You
There is
disagree.
no
I have
strength.
emotional resilience.
There's no
I have
strength in
emotional
emotion.
resilience.
Chris, there's no strength in emotion. It's only weakness.
No, you are so misguided. So misguided. Strength comes from the ability to accept your emotions and talk about them and deal with them.
No,
Real strength,
that's not
real
strength.
strength comes with an ability to be at peace with your emotions, not to cover them up and hide them and hope that they'll disappear, because that's where violence comes from.
Who do you talk to about your emotions? Do you talk to your girlfriend?
Yeah, my partner. Yeah, I talk to her,
You talk,
and I talk to my friends, and I talk to my mum, and I talk to everyone about them,
and so you,
and I make no
oh
apology
man,
for that.
and so you say to your girlfriend,
My
"Oh,
partner, yeah.
honey, I'm so emotional today. My day was such a wreck. They just really got to me." You talk to her like that?
Well, no, because I wouldn't talk to her about that, because that's not what true emotions are. I talk to her about the fact that one of my best friends has got cancer and is dying, and I talk to her about that. I talk to her about the fact that I lost my father 3 years ago. I talk to her about important, serious things that other men would bottle up and say, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Do
And
you
actually, being
cry?
fine is not
Do
healthy.
you cry with your girlfriend?
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage everyone to do it. It's the best feeling in the world.
No,
It's the
Chris.
best feeling in the world.
No,
Go and cry. Jesse, you should try crying, man. It feels so good. It
not
feels
with your
really good.
girlfriend. If you gotta cry, go in private.
No, cry.
This man is gone. All he needs now is prayers, prayers, prayers. We need to pray for this man, this young man, and not just this young man, but so many men in the world today. We need to not only pray, but also spread this kind of message, to restore masculinity back. Because, we talked about men being violent. Men are not violent, men are aggressive, men are protectors. So we tend to want to protect our territories, protect the women, protect the children, even if we have to fight for it. That's where he doesn't get it. If a man is soft, that means if someone is coming with a gun to attack your family, they can just be soft. You talk to them, they won't listen to you. They'll just run over you and butcher your entire family. The same thing in your country, or you're defending your village. As men, you ought to go and defend that village. Otherwise, if you leave, if you say you're not going to be aggressive, trust me, people will come and run over that village and take over your village, destroy all the men, and take your wives and your children as slaves. So that's why men have to be, aggressive, defensive, fight for what they believe in. That is what it takes to be a man, not being a sissy or effeminate or being soft like this man is trying to say. There are a whole lot of talking points. I don't want to waste my time talking about it, but I want you, if you're watching this, to react in the comment section. I'd like to see your reaction. I'd like to further debate this in the comment section. So drop your comments. I'd like to say that. I'll see you in my next update. Until then, my name is Roland. God bless. Bye bye.